I didn't know this until today, but you lived with Mystery and Matador. I know who Mystery is, but who's Matador and how did you even live with these guys? And when was that?
This is oh god, it's like nearly 15 years ago now, and I got to the point, and all is you just heard the backstory of the fitness club journey and the lonely club manager, and I got invited down to a convention, not mentioning anybody's names, and a guy told me about this guy who hypnotized women. I'm like, just don't tell me anymore. I'm coming. I'm there. I'm there. I'm like a tramp on chips. I'm a stripper on tips. I'm coming down to London. And it was just a room full of very technically minded guys, super intelligent, and it really, I'm like, okay, this is algorithms to seduce women, and it was just really too complicated. But what I did remember, the guy at the front, he kept talking about a guy called Misery. I'm like, who's this guy called Misery? And if you read the book The Game, you'll understand. I'm like, who's this guy called Misery? And I kept asking guys, and they kept like, they knew I was totally obviously a newbie in the dating game, and they had these words and seducing weasel phrase things, and I was really confused. And who's this guy called Misery? And he said, oh, it's a guy called Mystery. They don't get on really. Oh, okay. So I obviously Googled this guy called Mystery, and I found out literally 4 weeks later that they had a boot camp in Chicago, and it was a guy called Style, Mystery, Matador, and Lovedrop. And I'm like, oh my god, just the names alone make me not want to go. So says the guy they end up calling me Discovery. So yeah, and I thought, okay, I need this. I've got to take action. And the one thing I'd learned from attending a lot of training conventions, I always find if you go somewhere new, if you stay in your local area, you're still always very guarded. If you go, the further you go away, the more you're willing to immerse yourself, and you're willing to burn and lose and not give a shit. So like literally a week later, I booked their entire program, the extra experience, and flexed my credit card, and I was on a plane to Chicago. And that's where I first met the whole crew, Style, Mystery, Matador, and Lovedrop. And it was actually, again, it was a really uncomfortable experience, because I think it was the time the VH1 The Pickup Artist TV show was just launching and had a lot of popularity. And everybody in this convention says the guy all in black. They were all dressed in black. They had black nails and like really big fans of Mystery at the time. And I made the mistake of the guy Lovedrop I spoke to, who was one of the main real authors behind the scenes, especially of Revelation, and like the real genius behind a lot of things. And he told me, read the book The Game on the plane. And I was like, so I sat there with this geeky looking book with this weird looking guy on the front of the book. And I'm like, but there was this girl next to me, right? No, looking back, she wasn't very hot at all. But I was a needy motherfucker, and I was desperate. And so I got talking to her, and I feel like, ooh, I've got her for 8 hours sat next to me. And so rather than read the book The Game, I tried to work this girl for a solid 8 hours, and it went nowhere. So yeah. So when I get to the boot camp experience, like everybody knew these words, DHV, neg, this, that. And I thought, oh my God, here we go again. I'm so out of my depth. But the one thing I realized then is like, okay, I know how to learn. I know how to get rejection, did sales training. And Style, I was having a little chat with Style saying, look, I just don't think I fit in here. He says like, he was asking, Style was really compassionate. I really like Style, very compassionate. He's a good listener. And told him a bit of my background. He said, look, you're a soldier. He's like, go in there, you recover. You're not getting your hands blown off. Go in again. You just go rack up some rejection. So that's exactly what I did. And I think I literally on my first boot camp, not because I went anywhere, I had no skill. I thought the only thing I can control rather than worry about the outcome of getting the girl or getting a number or knowing what to say is I can get into set and get more experience. And that's how I knew how, like in the sales training or anything else, or boxing coach training or windsurfing or downhill giant slalom skiing. It's all the same mechanisms, fail, fall faster. And that's exactly what I did. I think I must have opened more sets in that boot camp than all the rest of the boot camp guys put together. And I failed a hell of a lot too. It was painful. I was exhausted. I had to cancel my flight coming back because I needed to sleep for 2 days before I could even concentrate on getting the airport. But I caught the eye of Lovedrop, and he said, you should come out, you'll grow fast. And so I booked again like for 6 weeks later, and I went out and connected with Lovedrop. Again, Lovedrop was the guy he was the one who was always sitting there writing the book. Mystery was sitting around the pool with the girls, and Lovedrop was the one writing the book that had Mystery's name on it. So I remember one time sitting in the Hollywood Hills, and Lovedrop's finished the book and is ready to go to print. And he's like, Mystery, he's got your damn name on it. Do you want to read the book or what? And Lovedrop's Mystery's like, Lovedrop, you know, you're my brother. I'm not sure if it was a gambit at the time or because the girls, I trust you, brother. So you hadn't even seen the book before it went to print. And that was the book Revelations, which I highly recommend. It's just like such a rich topic of information. And Lovedrop got a lot of his information from David Buss and the inspiration between the evolution of desire, which more people are talking about, which is great. So yeah, and he encouraged me to go to Chicago. And while I was there, we kind of connected, and I pulled a few holes in that boot camp because these guys were rock stars, but they were not organized. They were literally rock star mentality LA guys, and the boot camp was a shambles in terms of organization. And I'm coming from a military organization background, professional training, teaching, and I said, well, yeah, I can help out with that. So I basically blagged my way into another boot camp in the future, and that's how I kind of got on the radar. And on the third one I came to was their national convention, like 6 months later. And in between this, everything they gave me to do, and the one thing I knew how to learn is I'm not intelligent to grasp the whole concept, but whatever they give me to actually go and do, I'm going to go and do. I'm going to do a lot of it and fail faster. And that was how I learned fast in the first 3 months. So they asked me if I wanted to speak at their convention, and I was teaching this kind of Jungian personality, the color, fiery red, sunshine yellow, earth green, cool blue, the personalities. And it was an interesting one because all the characters were there. And yeah, Ross Jeffries was there, and all the crew from the VH1 Pickup series. Tara was there. If you've seen that, have you actually seen the Pickup Artist TV show?
I didn't see it, but I did see a few clips on YouTube.
It's worth watching. It's definitely a bunch of lovable losers learning the game. They definitely chose a group of misfits. So if you watch that, because going back to your question, Matador, he was the big one. He's like the Indian dude, but like a Hulk size. And he loved his bodybuilding. He was such a big character, like had a mane of black hair, and his game. And the one thing I learned from them all, and it was good because at the time I thought I need to immerse myself and get as close as possible to these guys, because you need to have constant feedback. You know, it's like going to the dojo. You can't go to the dojo for one mixed martial arts experiential weekend and no martial arts. You know, you could go out and get in fights, but if you keep going back to the dojo, you might go back and the coach is going to say, hey, you know, you want to do a roundhouse kick, your back foot needs to be pointing the other way for more power. I get it. But if nobody gives you that feedback, you're just going to keep replicating bad mistakes. So I knew I wanted to get more exposure to these top guys. And what was unique, I thought, if I went to Style was very technical. He had his team, but it was just him. But the Venusian Arts team at the time was the Mystery, Matador, and Lovedrop. And they were all so unique. So Lovedrop, as I already said, was the very technical mind behind it. But he was also great. He was always in a relationship at the time with a girl called Casey, who went on to marry. And he was just a master of storytelling. The way he could hold court without any routines or gammon. No, he had a lot of stories to tell, but he had perfected the art of holding attention, the pauses, drawing out words, softening it as I'm doing now to pull people in for effect. And he could sit there, and I used to watch Mystery, Matador, and Lovedrop, and they were always bantering and testing each other. And Lovedrop used to own them just because of his ability to be funny and sociable, even without routines. So that was fascinating for me. Mystery, on the other hand, you just had to see him because his delivery was amazing as well. He was just more robotic and calculated, but it was so powerful. And I think what really hooked me onto Mystery at the time was we were in Washington, D.C., and we were in this bar, and I was speaking to this girl. I think she's like 21, and what am I like? And I'm 36. My first year in the boot camps. That's when I started, 36. So started late, and she was hot, and we were chatting away. She was this political scientist, and I got the point where, okay, we've been talking too long. I'd learned in the game you got to move around a little bit, and hey, let's go meet some cool friends. And we came across to where Mystery and the team were, and it's always nice to bring the guy. A lot of guys make the mistake, by the way, get the girl, they want to go hide her away and work her one-on-one. Whereas if you bring them back to your group and you've got good wingmen, you know, they'll talk highly of you. And then if you go off the bathroom, they'll talk even more highly of you, and it'll raise your value rather than you trying to, you know, work her one-on-one. And obviously she was looking for her friends anyway. So, and she caught up with her friends, and they were listening to Mystery. And so as we walked up to them, Mystery was just talking about something. Google Earth was his favorite thing at the time. And it really struck me because she said to the, who's that? And I was kind of observed. I wanted to see how it went, what they were going to say. And I'm like, oh, I don't know, but he's so interesting. And she says, what's he talking about? Oh, I don't know. I can't hear, but he's really interesting. And I'm like, okay, they couldn't grasp what he was fully saying, but the very way he was speaking and holding court. And that was a concept I got early on, is this concept of holding court. A lot of pickup guys want to work one goal at a time, but if you can maximize your impact value to hold court, captivate the attention of a group. They talk about pre-selection, how when women see you with other women, but if she can see you right there and then that her friends are enjoying what you have to say, that's very powerful. Now imagine Ice at that moment when you're speaking as the king of your court, there's also guys listening to you, your wingmen are listening to you and they're interested. And she observes both you being actively a leader of men, socially intuitive, and you have pre-selection. You don't have to weave it into the story, your very way of being. But most guys don't want to go that far. We call that captivation. They wanted to work one goal at a time, knowing what to say. And so I recognized earlier on that from Mystery and both Lovedrop, that, this delivery is such a big thing. By the way, Matador, he was the original approach animal. He's to be seen, that was ridiculous. He would literally walk up, say something. One of the things that stuck in my mind in an LA club, he walked up, lady, and he was so loud about it. And he's all peacocked out, big feather boa, and he's like this larger than life character. He's like, we're not having sex, leave me alone. And he did it with such playful energy. But see the back turn there. That roll off was so powerful. And as he's walking away, she's trying to grab him. Then he opens another set while she's trying to talk to him. You guys got to fight or what? And he was, so his body language and everything was so on point. And he called that caveman Kino and the Matador Mayhem. So you got all these three guys with such unique styles of game, all following a structure, but in their own very unique way. And that was powerful. So when Lovedrop says, look, hey, we're needing somebody to help us with the boot camps. We've got too many guys. It's getting a bit messy. We're constantly having to give refunds because it's just not very well organized. Would you like to come and work with us for a while? And I was like, how long's a while? He's like 6 months. So basically it was a chance to come out and live with them. So Matador wasn't living in the house because he said he was too messy. He lived in the apartment a couple of doors down. So it was actually Mystery and Lovedrop in the house. So yeah, I packed my bags up. I left my training company. I already had a great contract. I was getting residuals. And so yeah, I headed across to the Hollywood Hills and ended up living with these guys and taking me to the next part of my journey. And yeah, a shock to the system. So what happened is I was ranking up, as they would call it, earlier on. I think I must have done about 500 sets in my first 3 months. And then I was helping out with the management of the boot camps. Then they had me instructing on delivery and a few things that I was getting good at. And within 6 months, I was basically better than their instructors. Not the Mystery and Matador, Lovedrop, but the what they call the approach coach team. So I basically took over the team then, and basically I made all the people, I literally fired most of them. And when I took over as the program manager for Venusian Arts with Mystery and Matador and Lovedrop, I made all the coaches go through a professional coach development program. Because coming from a background of professional coaching, I just didn't grasp that, hold on, you're coaching other people, but you've never been on a professional or any type of coaching skills development program ever. So yeah, I basically upgraded all their skills.
Where are these guys now?
I think Cosmo's still in and out. Obviously, he's a professional actor, so like a lot of guys, see when they come off the show, they had a bit of notoriety and a little mini fame, so they all got into relationships really quickly. So they did this show, which gave them, it's very different when you're in a club and cameras are on you and everybody knows and they see all these characters come in. It's not real. It's not real life. People react, and you'll see these days, the guy. Clearly, she knows she's on camera. She's acting very different because she's on camera. And she's interested, so it hooks her attention more. So I don't really class that as real game. And a lot of these guys, Cosmo included, and a few others, they got into relationships very earlier on, which is great for them. So they got to experience the relationship, but it means they weren't then as active in the dating game, many of the instructors, which is one of my challenges, is I lose a lot of instructors who I tell them, don't get into a relationship in your first year until you really get good. And just when they're getting good, they get that first girl. She's hotter than they've ever had before, and they don't want to let go. I'm like, fuck, here we go again. Start again, training the next guys.
That's a
So yeah,
classic.
that's always been a problem. I was like, they just can't resist. But I was the same, my first hottie, the first day game hottie fashion model, and she was a nightmare. She wrapped me around her little finger, but managing the girls, the hot ones, is another total skill set than actually pulling the girl, getting the girl in the first place. That's another level of experience. So yeah, I moved across Hollywood Hills, lived with Mystery, Matador, Lovedrop, and then I worked my way up, and it took me about a year. I think I had the highest infield closing ratio. We used to compete a little bit back in the days. How sad on closing between all three of them, and it took me about 18 months. Based on some escapades from the night before of Mystery stopping the boot camp, and he presented me his. If you ever watched the show, they have the Master Pickup Artist badge. So he presented me his personal Master Pickup Artist badge for attaining that level. So it took me about 18 months. Again, that's not because I was natural social. It's just I knew how to learn and learn fast, and that's kind of what I teach a lot of guys at the boot camp, knowing what to do, but actually how to learn the game. So many guys on our forums, you've seen them, Ice. They know more than some of the instructors in terms of theory, but applying that in the real world. And then, it's like a lot of guys, I've had arguments with nutritionists in my fitness training courses. And I'm like, then why do you look like a bag of shit? It's because they're not actually following knowing the theory and practical application is two different things. And the forums are just full of guys who know all the theory and they're trying to give advice to other guys that all I'll do, all I'm going to do, I'm going to look at your profile photo and I'm going to swipe through. And if I don't see any girls, and then the first one I come off where the guy's leaning and he's really excited about her and she's like this really average, from some obscure third world country, and that's the best he has to show. Then like, I know you have no game. I just wish the art of dating was taught more mainstream and had a bit more structure to it, so more men had it. Some guys will get it naturally. Some guys won't. Some guys have to learn like me. If you don't have it, if you're not naturally a sporty guy at school or fit, you might have to go to the gym a few times a week to get yourself in shape. And people would say, well, just be yourself. No, I don't want to be a fucking fatty. I want to sort this out, So, you've got to be willing to put the time and effort in. And that's exactly what I did. And yeah, living with the Venusian Arts team, Mystery, Matador, Lovedrop, and some crazy times.